Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Gnanatimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Darati Swapadantikam. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथन्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्त काञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाशद्दर्शतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि बोल। Okay, Hare Krishna. So today we read the chapter 46, Delivery of the Message of Krishna to the Gopis. When the gopis saw Uddhava, they observed that his feature almost exactly resembles the features of Krishna, and they could understand that he was great devotee of Krishna's. His hands were very long, and his arms were just like the petals of the lotus flower. He was dressed in yellow-colored garments and wore a garland of lotus flowers. His face was very beautiful. Having achieved the liberation of Sarupya, and having the same bodily features as the Lord, Uddhava looked almost like Krishna. In Krishna's absence, the gopis had been coming dutifully to visit Mother Yashoda's house early in the morning. They knew that Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda were always grief-stricken, and they had made it their first duty to come and pay their respects to the most exalted elderly personalities of Vrindavan. Seeing the friends of Krishna, Nanda and Yashoda would remember Krishna himself and be satisfied, and the gopis always would be pleased by seeing Nanda and Yashoda. When the gopis saw that Uddhava was representing Krishna, even in his bodily features, they thought that he must be a soul completely surrendered unto the Supreme Person of Godhead. They began to contemplate, who is this boy who looks just like Krishna? He has the same eyes like lotus petals, the same raised nose and beautiful face, and he's smiling in the same way. In all respects, he's resembling Krishna, Shyama Sundar, the beautiful dark boy. He's even dressed exactly like Krishna. Where has this boy come from? Who is the fortunate girl who has him from her husband? Thus they talked among themselves. They were very anxious to know about him, and because they were simply unsophisticated village girls, they surrounded Uddhava. When the gopis understood that Uddhava had a message from Krishna, they became very happy and called him to a secluded place to sit down. They wanted to talk with him very freely and did not want to be embarrassed before unknown persons. They began to welcome him with polite words in great submissiveness. We know that you are a most confidential associate of Krishna and that he has therefore sent you to Vrindavan to give solace to his father and mother. We can understand that family affection is very strong, Even great sages who have taken to the renounced order of life cannot give up family members. Krishna has therefore sent you to his father and mother, otherwise he has no further business in Vrindavan. He is now in town. What does he have to know about Vrindavan village or the cows pasturing grounds? These things are not at all useful for Krishna because he is now a man in the city. Surely, Surely he has nothing to do with persons who do not happen to be his family members. Why should one bother about those who are outside the family, especially and specifically those who are attached as the wives of others? Krishna is interested in them as long as there is a need of gratification, like the bumblebees who have interest in the flowers as long as they want they they want to take honey out of them. It is very natural and psychological that a prostitute does not care for her paramour as soon as he loses his money. Similarly, when the citizens find that the government is incapable of giving them full protection, they leave the country. A student, after finishing his education, gives up his relationship with the teacher and the school. A rich man, after taking his reward from his worshipper, gives him up. When the fruit season is over, the birds are no longer interested in the tree. Just after eating in the house of a lord, the guest gives up his relationship with the host. After a forest fire, when there is a scarcity of green grass, the deer and other animals give up the forest. And so a man, after enjoying his girlfriend, gives up his connection with her. In this way, all the gopis began to indirectly accuse Krishna by citing so many similes. Uddhava understood that the gopis of Vrindavan were all simply absorbed in the thought of Krishna and his childhood activities. While talking about Krishna with Uddhava, they forgot all about their household business. They even forgot about themselves as their interest in Krishna increased more and more. One of the gopis, namely Srimati Radharani, was so much absorbed in thoughts of Krishna by dint of her personal touch with him that she actually began to talk with a bumblebee, which was flying there and trying to touch her lotus feet. While another gopi was talking with Krishna's messenger, Uddhava, Srimati Radharani took the bumblebee to be a messenger from Krishna and began to talk with it as follows. Bumblebee, you are accustomed to drinking honey from the flowers, and therefore you have preferred to be a messenger of Krishna, who is of the most who is of the same nature as you. I have seen you on your I have seen on your mustache the red powder of kumkuma, which was smeared on the flower garland of Krishna while he was pressing the breast of some other girl who is my competitor. You are feeling very proud by touching that flower, and your mustache have become reddish. You have come here carrying a message for me. You are anxious to touch my feet, but my dear Bumblebee, let me warn you, don't touch me. I don't want any messages from your unreliable master. You are the unreliable servant of an unreliable master. It may be that Srimati Radharani purposely addressed that bumblebee sarcastically in order to criticize the messenger Uddhava. Indirectly, Srimati Radharani saw Uddhava as not only resembling Krishna's bodily features but as being equal to Krishna. In this way, she indicated that Uddhava was as unreliable as Krishna himself. Srimati Radharani wanted to give specific reason why she was dissatisfied with Krishna and his messengers. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you can continue also if you can read. Anyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhu, 1 minute. She addressed the bumblebee. Your master Krishna is exactly of your quality. You sit down on a flower and after taking a little honey, you immediately fly away and sit in another flower and taste. You are just like your master Krishna. He gave us the chance of tasting the touch of his lips and then left altogether. I know also that goodness of fortune Lakshmi, who is always in midst of the lotus flower, is constantly engaged in Krishna's service. But I do not know why she has become so captivated by Krishna. She is attached to him, although she know his actual character. And as far as we are concerned, we are more intelligent than that goddess of fortune. We are not going to be cheated anymore by Krishna or his messenger. According to expert opinion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is subordinate expansion of Srimati Radharani, as Krishna has numerous explanation of Vishnu Murtis, so his pleasure potency Radharani also innumerable expansion of goddess of fortune. Therefore, of goddess of fortune, Lakshmi ji is always anxious to be elevated to position of the gopis. Srimati Radharani continued, "You foolish bumblebee, you are trying to satisfy me and get a reward by singing the glories of Krishna, but it is a useless attempt. We are barefoot of the all our possessions. We are always from our homes and families. We are away from our homes and families. We know very well about Krishna. We know even more than you. So whatever you make up about him will be old story to us. Krishna is now in the city and is better known as the friend of Arjuna. He is now has many new girlfriends, and they are no doubt very happy in association with him, because the lusty burning sensation of their breast has been satisfied by Krishna. They are now happy. If you go there and glorify Krishna, they may be pleased to reward you. You are just trying to pacify me by your behavior as a flatter, and therefore you have put your head under my feet. But I know the trick which you are trying to play. I know that you are a messenger coming from a great ticker, trickster Krishna. Therefore, please leave me. I can understand that you are very expert in reuniting two opposing party, but at the same time, you must know that I cannot place my reliance upon you, nor upon your master Krishna. We left our family, husband, children, relatives only for Krishna, and yet he did not feel any obligations in exchange. He has left us to lost. Do you think we do you think we can place our faith in him again? We know that Krishna cannot be long without the association of young women. That is the nature. He is the finding difficulty in Mathura because he is no longer in the village among innocent cowherd girls. He is in the aristocratic society and must be feeling difficulty in making friendship with the young girls. Perhaps you have come here to canvass again to take us there. But why should Krishna expect us to return there? He is greatly qualified to entice all other girls, not only in the Vrindavan or Mathura, but all over the universe. His wonderfully enchanting smile is so attractive, and movement of his eyebrow so beautiful that he can call for any woman from the heavenly middle or plutonic planets. Mahalakshmi, the greatest of the all goddess of fortune, also hankers to render him some service. In comparison to the all these women of the universe, what are we? We are very insignificant. Krishna advertises himself as a very magnanimous, and he is praised by the great saint. His qualification could be perfectly utilized if if he would only show to mercy, because we are downtrodden and neglected by him. You poor messenger, you are only a less intelligent servant. You do not know much about Krishna. How ungrateful and hard-hearted he has been, not only in this life but in the previous life also. We all have heard this form of grandmother Purnamasi. She has informed us that Krishna was born in the Kshatriya family previous to this birth and was known as a Ramchandra. In that birth, instead of killing Bali, an enemy of his friend in the manner of Kshatriya. He killed him just like a hunter. A hunter take a secure hiding place and then kill the animal without facing it. So Lord Ramchandra, a Kshatriya, should have fought with the Bali face to face, but instigated by his friend, he killed him from the behind a tree. Thus, he diverted from the religious principle of the Kshatriya also. He has so attracted by the beauty of Sita that he converted Surpanaka, the sister of Ravana, into an ugly woman by cutting off her nose and ears. Surpanaka proposed an intimate relationship with him, and as a Kshatriya, he should have satisfied her. But he he was so selfish that he could not forget Sita Devi and converted Surpanaka into an ugly woman. Therefore, that birth of Kshatriya, he took his birth as a Brahman boy known as Vaman Dev and asked the charity from the Bali Maharaja. Bali Maharaj was so magnanimous that he gave him whatever he had. Yet Krishna, as Vaman Dev, ungratefully arrested him just like a crow and pushed into down the Patal kingdom. We know all about Krishna and how ungrateful he is. But here is the difficulty. In the spite of his being so cruel and hard-hearted, it is very difficult for us to give up taking about him. Not only we are unable to give up this talk, but great sages and saintly persons are also engaged in the talking about him. We gopis of the Vrindavan do not want to make any more friendship with this blackish boy, but we do not know how we shall able to give up the remembering of the talking about him his activities. Since Krishna is absolute, so his so-called unkind activities are as realizable as his kind activities. Saintly person and great devotees like the gopis cannot give up Krishna in any circumstances. Lord Chaitanya therefore prayed, Krishna, you are free and independent in all respect. You can either embrace me or crush me under your feet. Whatever you like, you may make me broken-hearted by not letting me see you throughout my whole life, but you are my only object of love. In my opinion, Srimati Radharani continued, one should not hear about Krishna because as soon as a drop of the nectar of his transcendental activities is poured into the ear, one immediately rises above the platform of the duality, attraction, and rejection, being completely freed from the material world, family, home, wife, children, and everything which is materially dear to the every person, being disposed of all material acquisition, and one make his relative and himself unhappy. Then he wanders in he wanders in the search of Krishna, either as a human being or in the other species of life. Even a bird, it is very difficult to actually understand Krishna, his name, his quality, his form, his pastime, his paraphernalia, and his encourage. Srimati Radharani continued to speak to the black messenger of Krishna. Please do not talk anymore about Krishna. It is better to talk about something else. We are already doomed like the black spotted sea deer in the forest who are enchanted by the sweet musical vibration of the hunter. In the same way, we have been enchanted by the sweet word of the Krishna. And again we are thinking of the ray of nail of his toe. We are becoming more and more lustful for his association. Therefore, I request you not to talk of Krishna anymore. This talk of Radharani with the bumblebee messenger and her excusing Krishna, and at the same time her inability to give up the talking about him are the symptom of topmost transcendental asceti called Mahabhav. The ascetic Mahabhav manifestation is possible only in the person of Radharani and her associates. Great acharyas like Srila Rupa Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have analyzed these Mahabhava species of the Srimati Radharani, and they have described the different sentiments such as Ugra, Ud, Udgurna, Udgurna, bewilderment, and Jal Prapati Jalpa Pratijalpa, talking in different way. In Radharani is found the signs of Ujjala, or the brightest jewel or loving of the god, while Radharani was talking with the bee, and the bee was flying either neither and it hither and thither. It all of the sudden disappeared from her sight. She was in full murmuring due to the separation from the Krishna, was feeling anxiety by talking with the bee. But as soon as bee disappeared, she became almost mad, thinking that messenger bee might have returned to Krishna to inform him all about her talking against him. Krishna must been have very sorry to hear it. She thought in this way she was very much overwhelmed to the another type of the anxiety. In the meantime, the bee, flying hither and thither, appeared before her again. She thought, Krishna is still kind to me, in spite to the messenger carrying dis- disruptive messages. He is so kind that he has again sent to bee to take me to him. Srimati Radharani was careful this time not to say anything against Krishna. My dear friends, I welcome you, she said. Krishna is so kind that he has again sent to you. Krishna is so kind that affectionated to me that he has sent you back. Fortunately, in the spite of your carrying my messenger against him, my dear friend, you can ask me to whatever you want. I shall give you anything because you are so kind upon me. You have come to take me to Krishna because he is not able to come here. He is surrounded by the new girls friends in the Mathura. But you are a tiny creature. How can you take me there? How will you be able to help me in the meeting Krishna while he is taking rest there all along with the goddess of fortunate and embracing her to his chest? Never mind, let us forget all these things about my going there or sending you. Please let me know how Krishna is faring in the Mathura. Tell me if he still remember his foster father Nanda Maharaja, his affectionate mother Yashoda, his cowherd friends, and his poor friends like us, the gopis. I am sure that he must sometimes sing about us. We served him just like a maid servant without any payment. Is there any possibility that Krishna will again come back and place his arm around us? His limbs are always fragrant with the aguru aguru scent. Please put all this inquiry to Krishna. Uddhava was standing near, and he heard Radharani talking in his way as if she had become almost mad after Krishna. He was exceedingly surprised at how the gopis were accused, accustomed to think of Krishna constantly in the topmost ecstasy of Mahabhava love. He had bought a messenger message in the writing of Krishna, and now he wanted to present it before the gopis just to pacify them. He said, my dear gopis, your mission of human life is now successful. You are all wonderful devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you are eligible to be worshipped by all kinds of people. You are worshipable through the three words because your minds are wonderfully absorbed in the thought of Vasudeva Krishna. He is the goal of Krishna of pious activity and ritualistic performance, such as giving in charity, rigidly following the austerity of vow, undergoing service, severe penances, and igniting the fire of sacrifices
sacrifice. He is purpose behind the chanting of the different mantras, the reading of the Vedas, controlling the senses, and concentrating mind in the meditation. These are some of the many different process of self-realization and attainment of perfection of life. But actually, they are only meant for the realizing Krishna and devoting oneself in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Also, although there are description of different kind of process of self-realization, at the end, Krishna recommended one should give up everything and simply surrender unto him. All other processes are meant for the teaching one how to surrender ultimately unto the lotus feet of Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita also say that this surrendering process is completed by the sincere person executing the process of self-realization in wisdom and austerity. After many births, since the perfection of such austerity was completely manifested in the life of gopis, Uddhava was fully satisfied upon seeing their transcendental position. He continued to say, my dear gopis, the mentality which you have developed in the relationship with Krishna is very, very difficult to attain. Even for the great sages and saintly person, you have attained the highest perfectional stage of the life. It is a great boon for you that you have fixed your mind upon Krishna and have decided to have Krishna only. Decided to have Krishna only, giving up your family, home, relatives, husband, and children for the sake of the Supreme Personality, because your mind is now fully absorbed in the Krishna, the Supreme Soul. Supreme Soul. Universal love has automatically developed in you. I think myself very fortunate that I have been favored by your grace to see you in the situation. When Uddhava said that he had a message from Krishna, the gopis were more interested in the hearing the message, in the hearing about their exalted position. They said they did not very much like being praised for their high position. They showed their anxiety to hear the message which Uddhava had. What from the Krishna? Uddhava said, my dear Gopis, I am especially deputed to carry this message to you, who who are such great and gentle devotee. Krishna has especially sent me to you because I am his most confidential servitor. The written message which Uddhava brought from the Krishna was not delivered to the gopis by Uddhava, but he personally read it before them. The message was very gravely written so that not only gopis but all empiric philosopher might understand how pure love of God is intrinsically integrated with all different energies of Supreme Lord. From Vedic information, it is understood that the super soul has multi energies. Parasya Shaktir Vividhyo Suruyate. Also, the gopis were such intimate personal friend of Krishna that while he was re- writing the message for them, he was much moved and could not write distinctly. Uddhava, as the student of Brahaspati, had very sharp intelligence, so instead of handing over the written message, he thought it wise to read it personally and explain it to them. Uddhava continued, these are the words from the personality of Godhead. My dear gopis, my dear friends, please know that separation between ourselves is impossible at any time, at any place, or under any circumstance, because I am all pervading. This all pervasiveness of Krishna is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, both in the ninth and seventh chapter. Krishna is pervasive in his impersonal feature. everything is resting in him. But he is not personally present everywhere. In the seventh chapter, also, it is stated that the five gross element earth, water, fire, air, and sky, and the three subtle element mind, intelligence, and ego all are all his inferior energy. But there is another superior energy which is called the living entity. The living entity are also directly part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is the source of both material and spiritual energy. He is always intermingled with intermingled with everything as cause and effect. Not only the gopis but all living entities are always inseparably connected with Krishna. In all living entities are always in Krishna in all circumstances. The gopis, however, are perfectly and thoroughly in cooperation in their relationship with Krishna, whereas the living entities under the spell of Maya are forgetful of Krishna. They think themselves as separate identification having no connection with Krishna. Love of Krishna or Krishna consciousness is therefore the perfectional stage of the real knowledge. In the understanding things as they are, our mind can never be vacant. The mind is constantly occupied by some kind of thought, and the subject matter of such thought cannot be outside the eight element of Krishna's energy. One who know this philosophical aspect of all thought is actually a wise man, and he surrounded his and he surrendered unto Krishna. The gopis are the typical example of this perfectional stage of knowledge. They are not simply mental speculator. Their mind are always in the Krishna. The mind is nothing but energy of Krishna. Actually, any person who can think, feel, act, and will cannot separated from the Krishna. But the stage in which we can understand his eternal relationship is called Krishna consciousness. The disease condition in which we can understand his eternal relationship with Krishna is a contaminated stage or Maya. Since the gopis are on the platform of the pure transcendental knowledge, their minds are always filled with Krishna consciousness. For example, as there is no separation between fire and air, so there is no separation between Krishna and living entities. When the living entities forget Krishna, they are not in their normal condition. As for the gopis, because they are always thinking of Krishna, they are on the absolute stage of perfection in knowledge. The so-called empiric philosopher sometimes thinks that path of the bhakti is meant for the less intelligent, but unless the so-called men in the knowledge come to the platform of the bhakti, his knowledge is certainly impure and imperfect. Actually, the stage of perfecting one's eternal relationship with Krishna is a love in separation, but that is also illusory and illusory because there is no separation. The gopis were never separated from the Krishna. Even from the philosophical point of view, there was no separation. The cosmic manifestation is also not separate from Krishna. Nothing is separate from me. The whole cosmic manifestation is resting on is me and is not separate from me. Before the creation, I was existing. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. Before creation, there was only Narayana. There was no Brahma or no Shiva as assistant. The whole cosmic manifestation is manipulated by the three modes of material nature. Brahma is the incarnation of the quality of passion, and it is said that Brahma created his universe, but Brahma is the secondary creator. The original creator is Narayana. This is also confirmed by the Sankaracharya. Narayana Paro Vyakta. Narayana is the transcendental beyond this cosmic manifestation. Krishna creates, manifests, and annihilates the whole cosmic manifestation by the expanding himself in different incarnation. Everything is Krishna and everything is depending on the Krishna, but he is not perceived in the material energy. Material energy is called Maya or illusion. In the spiritual energy, however, Krishna is perceived at every step. In all circumstances, this perfectional stage of understanding is present in the gopis, as Krishna is always aloof from the cosmic manifestation, although it is completely depend on him. So a living entity is also completely aloof from his material conditional life. The material body has developed on the basis of spiritual existence in the Bhagavad Gita. The whole cosmic manifestation is accepted as the mother of living entities, and Krishna is the father, as the father impregnates the mother by injecting the living entity within the womb. So all the living entities are injected by Krishna in the womb of material nature. They come out in different bodies according to their different fruitive activities. In all circumstances, the living entity is aloof from the material conditional life. If we simply study our own body, we can understand how a living entity is always aloof from this bodily encasement. Every action of the body is taking place by the interaction of three modes of material nature. Hare Krishna Prabhu. We can see at every moment many changes take place in the body, but the spirit soul is aloof from the all changes. One can neither create nor annihilate nor interfere with the creation of action of the material nature. The living entity is therefore entrapped by the material body and is conditioned in the three stages, namely while awake, sleep, and unconscious. While awake, sleep, and unconscious, the mind is acting through all the three conditions of life. The living entity in his sleeping or dreaming condition sees something as real, and in his awakened condition he sees the same thing as unreal. In the concluded therefore that under certain circumstances he accepts something as real, and under other circumstances he accepts the very same things as unreal. These matters are these matters are the subject matter of the study for the empiric philosopher or Sankhya yogi. In order to come to the right conclusion, Sankhya yogis undergo severe austerity and penances. They practice control of the senses and renunciation. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Krishna Prabhupada.
I was gonna, read, but it felt like an audio book. I didn't want to interrupt.
Very well. Yes, Prabhu. You can continue now.
Yes, give me a moment. I just have to
Yes,
get
Prabhu.
some water.
Oh, this is a really long chapter. Very well.
You're almost done with it, though. Like, hold on one moment. Just get some more water. Okay, that's good.
Krishna. Govinda, Govinda, Govinda.
All these different ways of determining the ultimate goal of life are compared to rivers. Krishna is the ocean. As the rivers flow down towards the ocean, all attempts for knowledge flow towards Krishna. After many, many births of endeavor, when one actually comes to Krishna, he attains the perfectional stage. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, all are pursuing the path of realizing me, but those who have adopted courses without any bhakti find their endeavor very troublesome. Kalesho Dikataras Tesam. Krishna cannot be understood unless one comes to the point of bhakti. 3 paths are enunciated in the Gita: karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga. Those who are too addicted to fruitive activities are advised to perform actions which will bring them to bhakti. Those who are addicted to the frustrations of empiric philosophy are also advised to realize bhakti. Karma yoga is different from ordinary karma, and jnana yoga is different from jnana. Ultimately, as stated by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya mam apichananti, apijananti. Only through execution of devotional service can one understand Krishna. The perfectional stage of devotional service can be achieved by the gopis because they did not care to know anything but Krishna. It is confirmed in the Vedas, Yasmim eva jivnite sarvam evi vijyan and gyantam bhavanti. This means that simply by knowing Krishna, all other knowledge is automatically acquired. Krishna continued, transcendental knowledge of the Absolute is no longer necessary for you. You are accustomed to love me from the very beginning of your lives. Knowledge of the Absolute Truth is specifically required for persons who want liberation from material existence, but one who has attained love for Krishna is already on the platform of liberation. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who engages in unalloyed devotional service is to be considered situated on the transcendental platform of liberation. The gopis were not actually feeling any pangs of material existence, but they were feeling the separation of Krishna. Krishna therefore said, "My dear gopis, in order to increase your excellent love for me, I purposely separated myself from you. I have now, I have done this so that you may be in constant meditation on me." The gopis are in the perfectional stage of meditation. The gopis are generally more fond of meditation than the execution of devotional service to the Lord, but they do not know that the perfectional stage of devotion is attainment of perfection of the yoga system. This constant meditation on Krishna by the gopis is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita to be the topmost yoga. Krishna knew very well the psychology of women, and when a woman's beloved is away, she thinks of him meditatively, and he is present before her. And he is present before her. Krishna wanted to teach through the behaviors of the gopi. One is constantly entranced like the gopis. Surely attains the lotus feet of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya taught people in general the method of viparlampa, which is a method of rendering service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the feeling of separation. The 6 Goswamis also taught worship of Krishna and the feelings of the gopis in separation. The prayers of Srinivasa Acharya about the Goswamis explain these matters very clearly. Srinivasa Acharya said that the Goswamis were always absorbed in the ocean of transcendental feelings and the mood of the gopis. They were living in the Vrindavana. They were searching for Krishna, crying, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Where are the gopis? Where are you, Srimati Radharani?" They said, we have now seen Radha and Krishna, and therefore our mission is fulfilled. Our mission remains always unfulfilled. They never met Radha and Krishna. At the time of the Rasa dance, those gopis who could not join the Rasa Leela with Krishna gave up their bodies simply by thinking of him. Absorption in Krishna consciousness by feeling separation is thus the no, I was just coughing. Quickest method of attainment of the lowest view of Krishna by the personal statement of Krishna. The gopis were convinced about the strength of feelings of separations. They were actually experiencing the supernatural method of Krishna worship and were much relieved and happy to understand it. They began to speak as follows. We have heard that King Kamaso, who was always a source of trouble for the Yadu dynasty, has now been killed. This is good news for us. We hope, therefore, the members of the Yadu dynasty are very happy in the association of Krishna, who has fulfilled all desires of the devotees. My dear Uddhava, kindly let us know whether Krishna sometimes thinks of us while in the midst of the highly enlightened society girls in the Mathura. We know that the women and girls in Mathura are not village women. They're enlightened and beautiful, and they're enlightened and beautiful. Their bashful, smiling glances and other feminine features must be very pleasing to Krishna. We know very well that Krishna is always fond of the behaviors of beautiful women. It seems, therefore, that he has been entrapped by the women of Mathura. My dear Uddhava, will you kindly let us know if Krishna sometimes remembers us while he is in the midst of another woman? Another gopi inquires, does he remember that at night in the midst of the Kumandini flower in the moonlight, when Vrindavana became exceedingly beautiful, Krishna is dancing with us. The atmosphere was surcharged with the sound of footbells. We exchanged pleasing conversations then. Does he remember that particular night? We remember that night. We feel separation. Separation from Krishna makes us agitated, as if we were fire in our bodies, as if there were fire in our bodies. He proposed to come back to Vrindavana to extinguish the fire, just as a cloud appears in the sky to extinguish a forest fire by its downpour. Another gopi said, Krishna has killed his enemy. He has victoriously achieved the kingdom of Kamasa. Maybe he has married with the king's daughter by this time, and living very happily among his kinsmen and friends. Therefore, why should he come to this village of Vrindavana? Another gopi said, Krishna is the supreme personality, Godhead, the husband of the goddess of fortune. He is self-sufficient. He has no business either with us, the girls in Vrindavana forest, or with the city girls of Mathura. He is a great super soul. He has nothing to do with any of us, either here or there. Another gopi said, It is an unreasonable hope for us to expect Krishna to come back to Vrindavana. We should try to instead be happy in disappointment. Even Pingala, the great prostitute, had said that disappointment is the greatest pleasure. We all know these things will be very difficult for us to give up the expectation of Krishna coming back again. Who can forget a solitary conversation with Krishna on the beast of the goddess of fortune always remains in spite of Krishna's not desiring her. My dear Uddhava, Vrindavana is the land of rivers, forests, and cows. Here, the vibration of the flute is heard, and Krishna, along with his elder brother, Sri Balarama, enjoy the atmosphere in our company. Thus, the environment of Vrindavan is constantly reminding us of Krishna and Balarama, the impressions of his footprints on the land of Vrindavana, which is the resident place of the gods of fortune. But such signs cannot help us get Krishna. The gopis further expressed that Vrindavana was still full of opulence and good fortune. There's no scarcity or want in Vrindavana as far as material necessities were concerned, but in spite of such opulence, they could not forget Krishna and Balarama. We're constantly remembering various attractive features of the beautiful Krishna, his walking, his smiling, his joking words. We're all become lost by the tunes of Krishna, and it is impossible for us to forget him. We're always praying for him, exclaiming, "Dear Lord, dear husband of the gods of fortune, dear Lord of Vrindavana, and deliverer of the distressed devotees." We are now fallen and merged into an ocean of distress. Please, therefore, come back to Vrindavana and deliver us from the pitiable condition. Uddhava minutely studied the transcendental abnormal condition of the gopis in their separation of Krishna. He thought it wise to repeat all the pastimes of Sri Krishna over and over again. Materialistic persons are always in a burning condition on account of the blazing fire of material miseries. The gopis were burning in transcendental blazing fire due to separation of Krishna. The blazing fire, which is exasperating the gopis, however, is different from the fire of material world. The gopis constantly wanted to associate with constant association of Krishna, whereas a materialistic person wants the advantage of material comforts. It is stated by Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakur that Krishna saved the cowherd boys from the blazing fire within a second while their eyes were closed. Similarly, Uddhava advised the gopis that they could be saved from the fire of separation by closing their eyes and meditation on the activities of Krishna from the very beginning of their association with him. From the outside, the gopis could visualize all the pastimes of Krishna by hearing the description of Uddhava, and from inside they could remember those pastimes from the instructions of Uddhava. The gopis could understand that Krishna was not separate from them. They were constantly thinking of Krishna. Krishna was also thinking of them constantly while in Mathura. Uddhava's message and instructions saved the gopis from immediate death, and the gopis acknowledged the benediction from Uddhava. Uddhava practically acted as the preceptor, spiritual master of the gopis, and they, in return, worshipped him as they would worship Krishna. It is recommended in the authoritative scriptures that the spiritual master should be worshipped on the level of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of his being his very confidential servitor. It is accepted by great authorities that the spiritual master is the eternal manifestation of Krishna. The gopis were relieved from their transcendental burning conditions by realizing that Krishna was with them. Internally, they remembered that association within their hearts, and externally, Uddhava helped them to appreciate Krishna by conclusive instruction. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described in the scriptures as a dokshaja, which indicate that he is beyond the perception of all material senses. Although he is beyond the perception of material senses, he is present in everyone's heart. At the same time, he is present everywhere by his all-pervasive feature, Brahman. All three transcendental features of the absolute truth, Bhagavan, personality of Godhead, Paramatma, localized supersoul, and all-pervasive Brahman, can be realized simply by studying the condition of the gopis in their meeting with Uddhava, as described by Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said Srinivasa Acharya, the sixth Goswami, were always merged in the thoughts of the activities of the gopis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommended the gopis' method of worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that anyone who hears from the right source about the dealings of the gopis with Krishna and who follows the instructions will be elevated to the topmost position of devotional service and will be able to give up the lust of material enjoyment. All the gopis, solaced by the instruction of Uddhava, they requested him to stay in Vrindavana for a few days more. Uddhava agreed to their proposal and stayed with them, not only for a few days, but for a few months. He always kept them engaged in thinking of the transcendental message of Krishna and his pastimes, and the gopis were feeling as if they were experiencing direct association with Krishna. While Uddhava remained in Vrindavana, the inhabitants enjoyed his association as they discussed the activities of Krishna. The days passed just like moments. Vrindavana's natural atmosphere with the presence of the river Yamuna, it's nice orchard trees decorated with various fruits, Govardhana Hill caves, blooming flowers, all combined to inspire Uddhava to narrate Krishna's pastimes. The inhabitants enjoyed Uddhava's association in the same way as they enjoyed the association with Krishna. Hare Krishna. I just had to reciprocate with Bhagwaraj Prabhu. He read so much for me. I had to read so much for him.
Well, yes, Prabhu, that was very nice. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Uddhava was attracted by the attitude of the gopis because they were completely attached to Krishna, and Uddhava was inspired by the gopis' anxiety for Krishna. He began to offer them his respectful obeisances and composed songs in praise of their transcendental qualities as follows. Among all the living entities who have accepted the human form of life, the gopis are super excellently successful in their mission. Their thought is throughoutly absorbed in the lotus feet of Krishna. Great sages and saintly persons are also trying to be absorbed in the meditation upon the lotus feet of Krishna, who is Mukunda himself, the giver of liberation. But the gopis, having lovingly accepted the Lord, are automatically accustomed to this habit. They do not depend on any yogic practice. The conclusion is that one who has attained the gopis' condition of life does not have to take birth as Lord Brahma, or be born in a Brahmana family, or be initiated as a Brahmana. Sri Uddhava confirmed the statement of Bhagavad Gita spoken by Lord Krishna. One who takes shelter of him for the right purpose, be he a Shudra or lower, will attain the highest goal of life. The gopis have set the standard of devotion for the whole world by following in their footsteps of the gopis. By constantly thinking of Krishna, one can attain the highest perfectional stage of spiritual life. The gopis were not born of any highly cultured family. They were born of cowherd men, and yet they developed the highest love for Krishna. For self-realization or God-realization, there is no need to take birth in a high family. The only thing needed is ecstatic development of love of God. In achieving perfection in Krishna consciousness, no other qualification is required than to be constantly engaged in the loving service of Krishna. Krishna is the supreme nectar, the reservoir of all pleasure. The effect of taking up Krishna consciousness is just like that of drinking nectar. With or without one's knowledge, it will act. The active principle of Krishna consciousness will manifest itself everywhere. It does not matter how and where one has taken his birth. Krishna will bestow his benediction upon anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness without any doubt. The supreme benediction attained by the gopis, in spite of their being born in the family of cowherd men, was never attained even by the goddess of fortune herself, and certainly not by the denizens of heaven, though their bodily forms are like lotuses. The gopis are so fortunate that during Rasa Leela, Krishna personally embraced them with his arms. Krishna kissed them face to face. Certainly, it is not possible for any woman in the three worlds to achieve this except the gopis. Uddhava appreciated the exalted position of the gopis and wished to fall down and take the dust of their feet on his head. Yet he did not dare to ask the gopis to offer the dust from their feet, but perhaps they would not be agreeable. He therefore desired to have his head smeared with the dust of the gopis' feet without their knowledge. He desired to become only an insignificant clump of grass or herbs in the land of Vrindavan. The gopis were so much attracted to Krishna that when they heard the vibration of his flute, they instantly left their families, children, honor, and feminine bashfulness and ran towards the place where Krishna was standing. They did not consider whether they were passing over the road or through the jungles. Imperceptibly, the dust of their feet was bestowed on small grasses and herbs of Vrindavan. Not daring to place the dust of the gopis' feet on his head, Uddhava aspired to have a future birth in the position of a clump of grass and herbs. He would then be able to have the dust of the gopis' feet. Uddhava appreciated the extraordinary fortune of the gopis, who relieved themselves of all kinds of material contamination by placing on their high, beautiful breasts the lotus feet of Krishna, which are not only worshipped by the goddess of fortune, but by such exalted demigods as Brahma and Lord Shiva, and which are meditated upon by great yogis within their hearts. Thus, Uddhava desired to be able to constantly pray to be honored by the dust of the gopis' lotus feet. The gopis' chanting of their transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna has become celebrated all over the three worlds. After living in Vrindavan for some days, Uddhava desired to go back to Krishna and he begged permission to leave from Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. He had a farewell meeting with the gopis, and taking permission of them also, he mounted his chariot to start for Mathura. When Uddhava was about to leave, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, headed by Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda, came to bid him goodbye and presented him with various kinds of valuable goods secured in Vrindavan. They expressed their feelings with tears in their eyes due to intense attachment for Krishna. All of them desired benediction from Uddhava. They desired always to remember the glorious activities of Krishna and wanted their minds to be always fixed upon his lotus feet. Their words always engaged in glorifying Krishna, and their bodies always engaged in bowing down and constantly remembering him. This prayer of the inhabitants of Vrindavan is the super excellent type of self-realization. This method is very simple: to fix the mind always on the lotus feet of Krishna, to talk always on Krishna without passing on to any other subject matter, and to engage the body in Krishna's service constantly. Specifically in this human form of life, one should engage his life, his resources, words and intelligence for the service of the Lord. Such kinds of activities only can elevate a human being to the highest level of perfection. This is the verdict of all authorities. The inhabitants of Vrindavan said, by the will of the Supreme Authority, and according to the results of our own work, we may take our birth anywhere. It does not matter where we are born, but our only prayer is that we may simply be engaged in Krishna consciousness. A pure devotee of Lord Krishna never desires to be promoted to the heavenly planets, or even to Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan, because he has no desire for his own personal satisfaction. A pure devotee regards both heaven and hell to be on equal level. Without Krishna, heaven is hell, and without Krishna, hell is heaven. With Krishna, hell is heaven. When Uddhava had sufficiently honored the worship of the pure devotees of Vrindavan, he returned to Mathura and to his master, Krishna. After offering respects by bowing down before Lord Krishna and Balaram, he began to describe the wonderful devotional life of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. He presented all of the gifts given by the inhabitants of Vrindavan to Vasudeva, the father of Krishna and Ugrasena, the grandfather of Krishna. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 46th chapter of Krishna, delivery of the message of Krishna to the gopis. Haribol.
Ibo.
Okay, now let's go to 6 as the compares. Haribol. चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावादुजीवनम् आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मा स्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम्
नाम नामकारी
हरिबोल
Hey, Bo. Hey, Bo. You can do it, bro.
नाम नामकारी बहुधा निज सर्व शक्ति तत्र पिता नियमितः स्मरणे न कलह एतादर्शी त्व कृपा भगवान मामापि दुर्दैवम् ईदृशम् इज्जानि नानुग्रह
Tornado a piece and chena. Doro a piece of hishuna. Amanina manitena. Kirtaniya sadahari.
न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीशकामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि
अयि नंद तनुजुक्तिं करं पतितां मम विषम भवं बन्धु कृपया तव पाद पंकज स्थित धूलि सदृशं विचिन्त्य
Nayanam galat ashudarya. Patanam galat rudagriya. Pulakan nisitamba pukata tamanama grihe bhavishyati.
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रविर्शायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्द विरहेण मे
अश्लेष्य वा पदरतं पिनास्तु मम अद्रष्टनान् मर्म हतं करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विद्धतु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथास्तु सा एव न प्रह
Glory to Sri Krishna. Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all doubts accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is a prime benediction for humanity at large. Because it spreads the rays of this benediction moon, it is the life of all transcendental knowledge and increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to the living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rule for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the starving in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty
Oh,
Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your constant devotional service, birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick up me from this transit from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atom at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation. I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handled me roughly by his embrace or make me broken hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything for me, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Ribol, Sri Siksastakam ki jai,
Jai,
Harinam ki jai,
Jai,
Panchatattva ki jai, Nityananda Prabhu
Jai,
ki jai, Sri Krishna
Jai,
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Jagat Guru
Jai,
Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Premanande, Hari Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari
Hey, hey, hey.
Bol.